In this video, we are looking at Practice 16 in the TABE Tutor Practice Math Workbook 1. Practice 16 starts on page 34. So if you turn to page 34, and I will do the same. I'm having to look for mine in this long list, but here we are. This is about dividing fractions by whole numbers. So looking at problem number 1, 4 friends are sanding a hardwood floor. They sand half of the floor in an afternoon, and each friend sands an equal amount. How much of the floor does each friend sand? So we are looking at some keywords here. I want to make sure you notice those. Keywords in the question are especially important. And this one is the word each. That is a signal to divide. Also, equal amounts would be division. There's the word each again. So look for those keywords and they will help you to figure out what you need to do in the problem. Now on this page they tell us what we need to do, but in a test situation that will not be the case. You will have to figure out what you need to do. So then let's take a look at the story that we're told. We know that we have a hardwood floor, so I'm just going to sketch that. They did not sand the whole floor. They only did half of the floor. So let's mark that off as the part that they sanded. And there were 4 of them. So we have half of the floor and 4 friends. So we're taking that 1/2 and we're dividing that into 4 equal shares, equal amounts. So you have a fraction divided by a whole number. If you're watching this video for HiSET and you have the calculator, I encourage you to go ahead and use the calculator. If you don't have the calculator, here's how you do it by hand. The first thing I want you to do is to put a 1 underneath that whole number 4, so that you have 2 things that look like fractions. They both have a numerator and a denominator, and we have not changed the value at all. So then I'm going to say 1/2, that leader fraction never changes. And we're going to flip this second fraction into its reciprocal form. Just the everyday term for that, or verb for that, is to flip the fraction. But 4/1 and 1/4 are reciprocal fractions. So that's the proper math term. And at the point you flip the fraction, you change the division to multiplying. So there are 2 steps there. You flip the fraction that follows, and you change that division to multiplication. And then you just multiply. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 4 is 8. So each friend in this story sanded 1/8 of the floor. So I would choose option A as my answer to number 1, 1/8. Number 2. A farmer's market is set up on a 1/4 acre of land. There are 12 vendors who will share the land equally. How much land can each vendor occupy? So the words in the problem are telling me that I need to divide. So let's get the story straight. Here is the 1/4 acre of land. So I'm going to let that whole box represent the 1/4 acre. And then we need to divide that 12 ways so that each person has an equal share of the land. Now it's tempting to go with C because that means divide by 12. The problem with C is that the 1/4 is not on top of that fraction. So be careful. You actually have to do this division. So we're going to say 1/4. And remember, we put a 1 under that fraction and then flip it over. So you get 1/12. Multiply 1 times 1. And then 4 times 12. So the answer that we want is actually D. Each farmer or each vendor gets 1/48 of the farmer's market land. So the answer to number 2 is D. Number 3, a recipe for 2 dozen muffins, that would be 24 muffins, calls for 1/3 cup of milk. So how much milk is needed for 1 dozen muffins? So this one doesn't really have keywords, but I do realize that I'm breaking the recipe down. I'm taking 2 dozen, breaking it down to 1 dozen. So that is either subtraction or division. So let's draw a sketch and see if we can come up with what we need to do. So let's say that each of these, this is a box, and each of those sides holds 1 dozen. So you have 1 dozen here, you have 1 dozen here. That's 2 dozen, the recipe does. So the whole recipe is for 2 dozen muffins, and you need 1/3 cup of milk to make that whole recipe, both boxes of muffins. But we only want to make one of them. So we're taking that recipe and we're dividing it by 2. We're dividing it into 2 equal parts. Put your 1 under there. 1/3 times the reciprocal, 1/2, is going to give me 1/6. So if you divide that recipe into 2 equal parts, 1 dozen muffins needs 1/6 of a cup of milk. Number 4 simply tells us what to do. We don't have to set up a problem or anything. We say that 1/100 divided by 9/1 is the same as 1/100 times 1/9. So on the top I have 1 times 1. On the bottom I have 100 times 9. So 1/900 is the answer I'm looking for. Number 5. Swimmers compete in a relay race that is 1/5 kilometer long. There are 4 swimmers on a relay team. How far will each member of the relay team swim? And to understand this problem, you need to understand what a relay race is. And in a relay race, a person, in this case swimmers, if this is the entire race course, which we know to be 1/5 of a kilometer, so this entire distance is 1/5 of a kilometer. In a relay race, each person takes an equal amount of the race. So I would run for a certain amount, then the next person in line would run for a certain amount, or swim in this case. So relay races have teams, and each person on the team does an equal amount of the work. So what we're doing, we're dividing up this 1/4 or this 1/5 4 ways, and pretend that those are equal. Let me do a little better job here. So each person on the relay team is going to do an equal amount of the work. We're dividing the 1/5 by 4. So let's see what we get when we do that. Put your 1 under the 4, then flip that fraction over, get the reciprocal. So on top I have 1 times 1. On the bottom I have 5 times 4. So each person on this team will do 1/20th of the race. Relay races are very common in fraction problems, so I wanted you to understand exactly what's happening in a relay. And that could be swimming or running or walking, whatever the sport is, it can work the same way. So the answer to number 5 is A, 1/20th of a kilometer. Number 6. Kim walks from her house to the library and then takes the same route back home. Her fitness tracker shows that the total distance she walks is 1/6 of a mile. Be careful right here. The total distance is 1/6. Round trip is 1/6 of a mile. How far is it from Kim's house to the library? So what this picture is saying, and you know my rule about drawing it if they're walking, it helps. So here's what they're telling me. That she starts at home and she goes in the direction of the library. And then to come home, she starts at the library and she goes back in the direction of home. And that this total, this entire trip, total is the dividend. Total is the number that will come first in a division problem. So 1/6, and to get your divisor, it took her 2 trips to do the 1/6. So 1/6 divided by 2 over 1 is 1/6 times 1 over 2, which is 1 over 12. So each of those arrows in my diagram represents 1/12 of the distance that she walked. Okay. Number 7. A craft fair is held in a large gymnasium. Booths with homemade jewelry take up 1/3 of the space. There are 9 vendors selling homemade jewelry. How much of the space does each vendor occupy? Again, I would encourage you to draw a picture. So here's the gymnasium. Let me try that again. Here's the gymnasium. And the jewelry folks get 1/3 of the space. So if you divide that gymnasium into 3 equal parts, the jewelry folks get 1/3 of that. So this is all the space we have to work with. These other 2 sections are not part of this problem. We're going to take that 1/3 of the room and divide that among 9 people. So 1/3 times 1/9 is 1/27. So each person selling jewelry gets 1/27th of the gymnasium. If you took that gym and you divided it into 27 parts at the beginning, each jewelry vendor would get one of those 27 parts. Number 8, which 3 equations are true? So we need to come up with 3 answers on this one. A says that 1/8 divided by 4/1 is a half. So let's see. That one is false. 1/10 divided by 6/1 is 1/60th. That one is true. And if I don't section this off, I'm going to have a problem because all this runs together on me. So B is one of the true ones. Let me draw another line to section this off. 1/12 divided by 5/1. So 1/12 times 1/5 is 1/60. That one is also a true statement. 1/5 divided by 10/1. When you actually do the math, you get 1/50. So D is not true. E is 1/6 divided by 6/1. And that does not equal 1. F is 1/100 divided by 2/1. And that is 1/200. So F is the last one that I'm looking for. So the answers to number 8 are B, C, and F. If you did not mark all 3 of those on the TABE test, you would not get full credit. Number 9. Mark and Julio row a boat across a lake. They stop to fish when they are 1/2 mile from the shore where they launch. Mark and Julio each row an equal distance. How far does each person row? So I definitely want to draw this one because to me, it's not the easiest problem to understand. So let's draw a lake. Maybe something like that. Lakes are usually not straight, even, perfect circles, but you could draw that if you wanted to. It might be easier to. So here's the lake, and they row across the lake. So I'm going to put a line here just to indicate across the lake. But they stop to fish. So here's the shore where they launch. Launch means to leave, to take off, to start rowing. They stop halfway. They don't go, or I'm sorry, they don't stop halfway. They stop 1/2 mile from where they launched. So we're really just looking at this distance. You don't have to worry about any of the other distance. We're looking at where they launch and where they stop, and we know that that's a total distance of a half mile. So we've got our dividend. We've got that first number. Mark and Julio, that's two people, and they each row an equal distance. So we're going to divide that distance two ways. So 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4 of a mile. So Mark rode 1/4 of a mile and Julio rode 1/4 of a mile, and then they were at their fishing spot. So the answer to number 9 is C. And guys, if I don't say that, I forget to mark the circle. So I'm very bad about forgetting to choose the answer. I just do the math and then keep on going. Number 10. Lucy has 1/10 of a bag of cat food. That's 10%, or 1 part out of 10. So the cat has eaten 9/10 of the food. The food is almost gone. She divides that 1/10 equally among 4 bowls to feed her cats. How much of the bag does each cat get? So divide equally and each. They're really telling me what to do in this one. They're saying to take the 1/10, divide it equally among 4 cats. So 1/10 times 1/4 is 1/40 of the bag. So each cat's bowl will have 1/40 of the bag. If you divided the whole bag 40 ways, each cat's bowl would have 1/40. Answer to number 10 is D. Randy has a wooden board that is 1/4 yard in length. He cuts the board, that's breaking down, into 2 equal, that's division, pieces. Pieces are division. What is the length of each piece? If you want to do a picture, that's perfectly fine. I recommend that. Diagrams help me tremendously. So there's the board that we know to be 1/4 of a yard. And he cuts that board into 2 equal pieces. So he makes a cut at the halfway mark that I'm just not getting to work here. There we go. So he cuts the board into 2 equal pieces, and we want to know the length of each piece. So we are saying 1/4 divided equally into 2 parts, 2 pieces. 1/4 times 1/2 is 1/8. 1/8 of a yard is my answer. So the answer to number 11 is A. 1/8 of a yard. Number 12, they don't even have to tell me a problem. They just say to divide. And I end up with 1/48. We don't know units on this one. So let's go with option D, 1/48. Number 13. A box of granola bars weighs 1/2 pound. There are 6 bars in the box. How much does each granola bar way. So assuming that we are not counting the weight of the box, we're only counting the weight of the granola bars. We have a box that weighs a half a pound, and there are 6 bars in there. Put that over 1. So 1/2 times 1/6 is 1/12. I would choose option B for this one. Each bar is 1/12 of a pound. Number 14. Tina has a strip of fabric that is 1/6 of a yard long. She cuts it into 4 equal pieces. What is the length of each piece? So we're going to take that 1/6 of a yard, that's the whole, and we're going to divide that into 4 equal parts. So 1/6 times 1/4 gives us 1/24. Answer to number 14 is C, a 1/24 of a yard. Number 15. Dylan uses 1/3 of a roll of painter's tape to make a design on a wall before painting. The design has 7 lines of equal length. How much of the roll does Dylan use to make 1 line of the design? So we're breaking down 7 lines to 1 line. That's either subtraction or division. And since it's equal breaking down, it's division. So we have 1/3 divided by 7 over 1, or 1/3 times 1/7, and that gives us 1/21. So A is the answer I want here. 1/21 of a roll. Number 16. 5 friends shovel snow to make space in a parking lot for an ice skating rink. They shovel 1/2 of the lot. Each friend shovels an equal amount. How much of the lot does each friend shovel? So here's this parking lot that's covered in snow. And these 5 friends decide that they want to make an ice skating rink. They need half of that parking lot. They don't do the whole lot. So here's the half that they're going to shovel. And they're going to share that work equally. So 5 friends share that work equally. 1/2 times 1/5. That means that each person is shoveling 1/10 of that original sized lot. Number 17. Hank uses 1/8 of a pound of nails to build 5 wooden picture frames. He uses the same number of nails for each frame. So there's an important word. Same number for each. That is signaling division. How many pounds of nails does Hank use for each frame? So if he uses 1/8 of a pound for 5 frames, we're going to divide that 1/8 5 ways. So each of the frames is using 1/40 of a pound. So the answer to number 17 is B. Number 18. Wendy makes 3 batches of trail mix and uses 1/4 pound of dried banana chips. How many pounds of banana chips does she need for 1 batch? So there are no keywords, but we are breaking down. We're taking those 3 batches and breaking them down to a single batch. So let me draw you a picture here. We have 3 batches of trail mix, 1, 2, 3, and all of that takes 1/4 a pound of the banana chips. But we only want to look at 1 batch. So we are taking 1/4 and we're dividing it by 3. So 1/4 times 1/3 is 1/12. And that is going to be option C. Number 19. Trey rotates to different stations during his 1/2 hour workout. There are 10 stations, and Trey spends the same amount of time at each station. How long does he stay at each station? So his total time is 1/2 an hour. So we could eliminate A and B here because those are bigger than 1/2 an hour, and 1/2 an hour is all he has to begin with. So if you like to eliminate things, you could eliminate those two because they're bigger than his workout. And we're going to divide that 1/2 into 10 different stations. And by stations, I think they mean like a treadmill, a weights, maybe the machine for his arms, for his legs, different areas of a workout. So 1 times 1 is 1 and 2 times 10 is 20. So he spends 1/20 of an hour at each of those workout stops, stations. Answer to number 19 is D. Dwayne has 1/6 of a liter of water. He pours it equally onto 3 plants. How much water does each plant get? So 1/6 divided 3 ways would be 1/18 of a liter. So if you divide a liter into 18 equal parts, he's giving each plant one of those. If you have questions about dividing fractions by whole numbers, please contact your instructor and he or she will be happy to help you with those questions. I will see you in the next video for practice 17. I hope you have a really good day and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.